fast rate today.
Yes, it is filling up, and I have to say at an incredible rate. And I can also tell you that there are people pouring in from all sides of the square. And from my vantage point, I can see long queues in whatever direction I look at. I also have to tell you there's a very big difference between today's rallies and yesterday's rally. Today is a very political rally. You don't see the usual singing and sort of humor that you see. Each one who goes on stage keeps on talking about the demands of the people, that Egypt is for the people, does not belong to the regime. And I have to also say that the emphasis today is more about the fall of the entire regime rather than just President Hosni Mubarak. Over the past few days, you always heard invalid, invalid, leave, leave, talking about Hosni Mubarak. Today, it's more about the whole regime. They want to make sure that Hosni Mubarak is not the end of the story here. It's a whole system they're protesting against. They say it's a whole system that for 30 years has suppressed the Egyptian people.
Tahrir Square has seen a lot in the last few weeks. Hoda, should we get used to this site, do you think? By that I mean, are these protesters going anywhere?
Well, today's the Vice President's declarations today might signal that the presidency is actually taking seriously the fact that it needs to do concrete steps. Certainly the decree signed by President Hosni Mubarak today does chip away a good chunk of his monopoly on the political life here in Egypt. But there's still the problem that there's still a long list of demands that have to be met. Certainly, they want to chip away at the powers of the security forces, which under the emergency law, which has been in place for about 30 years, gives limitless powers to the security forces, allows them to do random detentions as they please. So that is something else they want to chip away before they leave here. Now, there is a conversation going on among the many protesters about how this transition should be. The hardcore would tell you the president should leave now, and then we will deal with Vice President Omar Suleiman. And if we're not happy with what he does, then we'll come back to Liberation Square. Some other people say, well, maybe it's better to have a sort of a gradual transition, make sure that the president doesn't leave, leaving the country in a constitutional crisis, in the sense that he needs to sign many more decrees before he actually leaves his presidency.
Hoda Abdulhamid with a live update from Tahrir Square in Cairo, where, as she says, thousands of people continue to pour in. There are very big numbers today in Liberation Square. But it's a group of people that largely have lacked any single leader so far. One man, though, emerged as a hero for many. His name is Wael Ghanim, a Google executive whose use of social networking sites inspired these thousands of people to hit the streets to come to Liberation Square. He was freed on Monday after being detained for 12 days. Imran Khan has his story.
January 27th, and a man is hauled away by what seemed to be security services. There's no way of confirming these pictures uploaded onto the internet, but they mark a moment Egypt's leaderless revolution found a hero. Wael Ghanim is a marketing manager for the internet search engine Google. His arrest sparked a campaign across the internet. Before his incarceration, he used social media sites to encourage and inform Egypt's pro-democracy protesters. For many, he was a digital icon. But then he simply disappeared into cyberspace. A prolific blogger, his writing just went offline. For 12 days, as Egypt roared with demonstrations, his friends, family and followers mounted an internet campaign with one simple message: where's Wael? Then, on the 7th of February, he was released. Egyptian state TV, realizing his role and the huge internet campaign to get him released, made a big deal.
First of all, I send my condolences to all the people who were killed. It was a peaceful revolution. We didn't want to do any damage. Don't focus your cameras on me. I'm not a hero. The real heroes are the youth who are behind this revolution. By God's will, we're going to clean this country of this rubbish.
His words, once on the air, echoed through cyberspace. The news of his release welcomed by many. From Cairo, this man, using the microblogging site Twitter, said, "Welcome back, Wael." Even the US State Department spokesman PJ Crowley welcomed the news. Having been released in Egypt today, it's good to see Ghanim back online. Ghanim's experience encapsulates the nature of these protests, led by the people but driven by technology, a technology that seems to have caught the government off guard. Imran Khan, Al Jazeera.
I'm going to move to some other news of the day. Pirates have reportedly taken control of an Italian oil tanker in the Indian Ocean. It happened about 1,200 kilometres off the coast of Somalia. A Navy spokesman says shots were fired at the ship, but there were no injuries. At least 5 pirates are believed to have taken part in the attack. 17 Indians, 5 Italians on board. The defence lawyer for former Liberian President Charles Taylor has walked out of the United Nations-backed Special Court for Sierra Leone in protest at the proceedings. Taylor faces 11 charges of war crimes and crimes against humanity. Prosecutors at The Hague say Taylor used terror tactics to secure control of the diamond mines in Sierra Leone. He, though, denies all of those charges, including the ones of using child soldiers in wars which killed 250,000 people in West Africa. Residents of the southern Sudanese town of Juba are still celebrating the results of a referendum to separate from the north. Election officials confirmed on Monday that almost 99% of voters did back secession. And Sudan's President Omar al-Bashir has formally accepted that split from the north. South Sudan will officially become Africa, not to mention the world's newest nation, in July. A Chechen rebel leader has claimed responsibility for the suicide bombing that killed 36 people. Promised more violence as well until Russia's Caucasus region becomes an independent emirate governed by Sharia law. Niamh Barker with more from Moscow.
The country's busiest airport. Doku Umarov is the nearest thing to a leader across the North Caucasus' many insurgent groups and the Kremlin's enemy number one.
This special operation was carried out by my orders. These kind of special operations will be carried out in the future. There are hundreds of brothers among us who are ready to sacrifice themselves.
This is the moment the attack happened. In the international arrival, Russian and foreign citizens were killed. Officials have identified a 20-year-old from the North Caucasus as the bomber. In another video last week, Umarov vowed a year of blood and tears. The man sitting on the right of the screen is believed to have been the Domodedovo suicide bomber. Nobody knows how many fighters Umarov commands, but it's thought to be near 1,000. Many are hiding out in the mountains and forests of Dagestan, Chechnya and Ingushetia. Umarov and his followers say they'll stop at nothing to secure an independent Islamic state across the North Caucasus. The Kremlin, though, say that they will eliminate the insurgents. The cycle of violence is set to continue. Niamh Barker, Al Jazeera, Moscow.
More news from around the world to come, including Asia, where there are some thawing tensions. Rivals North and South Korea have held their first talks since last year's deadly attack on a southern island. And back in court, WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange arrives for the second day of fighting extradition to Sweden.
As the hot spell extends across the Gulf, we'll still make sure you feel refreshed.
Hello once again. Flooding rains will continue to affect Sri Lanka in the coming days. This month alone, we've already seen around 300 millimetres of rainfall coming in on the back of what was an appallingly wet January and indeed a very wet December as well. So here we go with our area of thunderheads pushing in across southern parts of the Bay of Bengal. More heavy rain, particularly across that eastern half of Sri Lanka, pushing down towards southernmost parts. And that will continue to be the case as we go on through Thursday. Much of India, on the other hand, will be fine and dry. 24 Celsius there for New Delhi. Some wintry flurries to come just around the foothills of the Himalayas. And notice some thicker clouds started to make its way into Pakistan through Iran. It's pulling away from the Arabian Peninsula, actually. We may even see some rainfall here late on Tuesday going into Wednesday in Qatar. That will pull away as we go on through Wednesday. So brighter skies coming back in across the Arabian Peninsula. But we will see, well, highs in Doha of around 23 Celsius, feeling a little bit chilly then, if we can call it that. It's fine and dry for a good part of South Africa. A few showers just around easternmost parts of the country up towards the Drakensberg Peaks. We will still see some very heavy showers around Mozambique, into southern parts of Tanzania, into Zambia as well, and a chance of further flooding too for a good part of Madagascar.
Qatar Airways, world's 5-star airline.
As Washington's allies stumble, one after the other, exposed, losing control and influence, powerless in the face of the people's power, we ask, is this the dawn of a new Middle East? Empire at this time on Al Jazeera.